Spread love. Put me in the times, I'm in prime mode. Head of my time, anytime, every time zone. The God flow, I'm in God mode. Blessings hitting me with combos. I ball, cello, mellow, Lonzo. Time is money, no convo. Manifesting my dream.
33, Black celebrity Republicans and the Black agenda. You know, over the last 4 years, I would say, now that Trump is out of office, like we saw a lot of craziness, related to these black celebrities and how they started rocking with Trump and how they started pushing their own black agenda with that. Abstracts out, what was your viewpoints on, like, for example, whenever Ice Cube came out with the black agenda and met and had a meeting with Trump?
I'm one of those people, man, that believes in infiltration, finding your way in, because it's not, one thing about, especially in my city, Charlotte, I know some of y'all from Charlotte too, like, we have a lot of people that complain about not being included, like the artists or the creative community not being included in the main agenda of what Charlotte is doing, or what the city is doing, or what North Carolina is doing, when it comes to the creative level. Like, it's like we're forgotten about. So it's like, you have to like find ways to like step in and be a part of that conversation. Even if it's something you really don't want to be a part of, you gotta have a certain kind of face, a certain kind of mentality so that you can be in that room, be at those tables, and create something with that person that you may not like. So look, at the end of the day, somebody's always gonna have a different kind of power than you.
I like that point. I agree with, I'm 50-50 on it. I agree with it, but I think I agree with it during certain scenarios.
That's what I'm getting.
Right. Yeah. Like one scenario I do agree with it on is when Hov went and met with the NFL with Roger Goodell, and so we was experiencing the Colin Kaepernick situation. Colin not getting a shot. He's better than these raggedy quarterbacks, man. He's probably better than half of them. He's not getting any looks, not getting any workouts, not getting any tryouts, and how like I saw like black social media just go crazy. Like, Jay-Z's been working with Roger Goodell in the NFL, is stopping this and stopping that and stopping this. But I challenge people, and I asked them, I said, okay, you don't agree with Hov meeting with Roger Goodell in the NFL. Do you watch the NFL? Right. Do you watch games on Sundays? Do you watch games on Thursday nights? Right. Because if you do, you are a direct supporter, a contributor, donator to the NFL. So us as people, as the consumer, can't get upset when things start happening on a macro level or a micro level that we're not able to relate to. So we saw the photos and people just went crazy, insane, as if Jay-Z was making a deal with the devil per se. Right. But as we saw months after that, Colin actually finally got a workout. He didn't get a workout. So as you talked about infiltration, you can't make change unless you're at the table. Exactly. I feel like there are multiple layers of change when it comes to activism, and so I believe that there's change that us as the masses, and it takes hundreds and thousands of us to make change as we protest in the streets and we make pushes in that way as far as policy. But I think also too, our leaders, our millionaires, billionaires, and people who are maybe not be as wealthy, but have a lot of self-respect from businessmen as Roger Goodell or whoever it may be. I like how Jay-Z went and sat at the table with an organization that was known for supporting the Republican agenda, has multiple Republican owners in the NFL, and how he was willing to put his name on the line to make change for his people. Now, does he have a personal benefit in it? Absolutely. Because you're not going to go there and not take no meat off the bone if you go there,
Yeah, I agree. I think Hope did the right thing. What he did was he opened the conversation up. He allowed,
and not even just relatable to sports, to relatable to business.
To business, because I think what was part of his how he got his beat off the bone was, I think he was able to be a part of something with their creatives and the artists they bring in for
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
Like entertainment.
Yeah, so he helps facilitate that process, which I think, as much as people might hate on Hogan for that piece, or say he's selling us out in that aspect, I was like you said, you gotta have somebody in at the table gotta have somebody that's G14 classified that gets to be there for the conversations that are not on camera, that are not being
Because
recorded.
those are the conversations that have an effect
Exactly.
on our community.
And like Hov said, I got you, bro. Like Hov said, Colin Miller, we protested. What are the action steps associated with? And I think that's what black folks were like, oh, okay, what are we supposed to do? Like, what are we supposed to do? Okay? And Hov is trying to be that person that's like, okay, well, we probably need to try X, Y, and Z. NFL, this is what you need to do to start changing the optics of your organization right now, because the optics are terrible right now. So this is some action steps you can take. And I think that is something, going kind of away from the top, that is something we suffer as black people as a whole. The action steps.
The
like,
mobilization.
The mobilization. We can mobilize, we can protest. That does not change the narrative. It doesn't change all the optics. You gotta, our sister Tamika Mallory, she is out there on the front lines of mobilization. She's having the conversations with the people that conversations need to be had with. But you gotta have, what's his name, the new senator from Atlanta, Reverend Warnock? Warnock? Yeah, Reverend Warnock. He went from being arrested in the Capitol to now having a seat at the table with the rest of the Senate. A very hard Senate to work in. That's the level you gotta get to. That's the only way to change.
What I like personally about that particular situation, and you can learn from it. Like, I've always been an advocate for Hov, like the good and the bad.
Me too.
But what I like about it is that if you really look at it, he presented himself in the proper way. Rock Nation Sports. I don't think he would have been able to even have that conversation, if he didn't have something to share with that community. You know what I'm saying? With that program. So I think something you can learn from that too, just on a smaller scale, whatever it is that you're trying to do. You have a proper presentation of yourself. You can be in a room with anybody, and then you can learn the little steps here and there. But if you come just with a mindset and having knowledge of where you're going. And just like you said, I feel like we struggle as the black community, especially as men. I feel like as men, we don't know how to step to our issue. I'm not talking about mental health, that's the thing, but I'm talking about step to our issue and really face it the way it needs to be faced.
Absolutely. And you have to be strategic too. Like if you know as an individual, I want to make change in my community, you need to start positioning yourself now for where you want to be making change 4 years, 5 years from now, right? Jay-Z started Rock Nation Sports years ago, knowing, I'm sure, that, it's a problem in sports. I want to position myself, whether it's maybe not happening now because we're a new sports agency, but we're going to get some top athletes, we're going to get some notoriety, and we're going to be able to one day go sit down with Adam Silver, and we're going to be able to go sit down with Roger Goodell, and we're going to be able to make some change policy-wise with that. And my biggest challenge with, I also believe in infiltration, Like, I also believe in the rebel mindset. I believe in the Black Panther movement. I believe in war tactics. They infiltrated us.
Absolutely.
And we're successful.
And you still do it.
And still do it. COINTELPRO and other FBI programs that have been mentioned and declassified by the FBI relatable to how they infiltrated our systems of hierarchy in our community to bring us down because of our mobilization. One of the newest things that we're seeing now is the Antifa movement and how that is having a negative and positive outlook, not only with the communities outside of us, but there's a lot of communities within the black community, we don't understand what it is. They don't have a full grasp of what the movement is and how it benefits us and how it may have harm on us.
Yeah, absolutely. You can even take it, infiltration comes at a lot of different levels. So for we talk about this in the military a lot. We're just having our, General Lloyd Austin retired, first black Secretary of Defense in U.S. history. That's major from being in a military standpoint. And, a lot of times, so there's a negative connotation from the black community when it comes to combat and combat arms, what it did to us in Vietnam. The black mother doesn't want her son to go be an infantryman, doesn't want him to join the military, period, in some cases. So I have a mentee that we pushed him into the infantry world. He was like, well, why? I said, well, if you look at our government organization, if you look at who's running things from a military standpoint, and you want to change things that happen within the construct of our defense, you need people like us that sit at the table. The only ones that make it are infantry and combat arms guys. Because everything we do in our military supports a ground fighter. somebody that's out there on the front lines.
So you're basically giving him the recipe for success.
Yeah, we're giving you the guidebook. Like, you have to go this way. And so the current guys that are almost right there at that glass ceiling where General Austin was at are like, this is what you got to do, young boy. I stepped on myself too many times through my career where I can't make it to this glass ceiling. But if you just follow this blueprint, follow the Underground Railroad that I'm telling you how to strategically move, this will give you a seat at the table, and then you can have the conversations.
So I got a question for you.
Me even talking about it on this podcast, and I'm going to share this with some of my military members, you know, like, having a seat, the only way I've gotten to where I've gotten in my career in the military is just because I had a mentor, I had my circle was there, and they slapped my hand when I was wrong, and they was like, nah, Colin, you think you're wrong, think bigger, think more big picture. You have the audience, you know, people following on social media. Our young lieutenants, they're not listening to us because they think we old and played, but they listen to you because you're kind of in that in-between gap of generations. So this is how you need to move. In order to get that seat at the table or potentially just position yourself to be considered, because at the end of the day, there's still going to be a subjective piece to it, whether somebody wants you there or not. But at least if you've done everything you can to control the controllables, you can be in that situation. And I think as a black community, like you said, we don't position ourselves sometimes to be like, control what we can control, continue to move, and sometimes then it turns into where we have the anguish of black men where we get angry and we act out and we go, and it's like, play position until it's your time.
Because we can't have a black agenda, and we can't combat the system if we're not in a position to do so. So you said something very strong, and I think that's a gem. So like real quickly, if you had a 17 or 18-year-old kid come to you and say, I know you're in the military, can you give me real quickly the recipe to be successful so that I can progress up the military ladder? What route would you recommend for an 18-year-old to go?
I joke about this all the time. I say join the Air Force, not the Army. I'm in the Army, but I mean, like, join the Air Force. Nah, they have a better lifestyle than we do in the Army. But honestly, no matter which way you serve, humility is key, because you're working in a white male institution. You know that I can spit history about the military in terms of how white males did not want black officers, they didn't want black leaders, and told us that it's on paper, it's documented. There's actually papers about this, that we are incompetent, incapable. The black Negro is incapable of being able to run an organization, particularly in to keep us out of achieving certain ranks and certain structures. It's nuts to me. It hurt me to my soul reading about it. And so what I would tell that 17 to 18-year-old is the legacy of those systems is starting to be broken down now, where there's been a huge changes in the military, sweeping, because we tend to mimic what society does. So we look like society. There's Hispanic, black, Asian, white, you name it, all across the military. It ain't just a bunch of white guys going, you know, shooting with guns. It's everybody across the race and gender spectrum, etc. But now, with the social justice changes that are happening, the military is starting to see like, oh, maybe we were getting it wrong. And that's probably why we struggle with the things we struggle with internally. So what I would tell that 17 to 18-year-old is, stay humble, follow the guide path, and get mentors. Mentors, no matter what walk of life you're in, you need a mentor. You need somebody that's walked it. You know, it doesn't have to be the exact way you're going, but somebody that can at least give you the tools and the mental, the mindset to be like, this is where you want to go. Let me help you walk this through. Let me help you have some self-discovery about how you're going to get there. Have some experiential learning, you know, going on, and that mentor should be able to guide you. The next thing I would say is just be sure of what you want to do. You know, no matter what it is, whether you want to stay in the military for 20 years or you want to stay in for 5, 10 years, get the benefits and get out, no matter what, be sure of your plan and execute your plan. Have a goal. Don't just go in there and say, I'm going to serve, catch this paycheck, drive a nice Charger, and... No, seriously, that is literally what these... I mean, like, it's a joke, it's a meme. If you follow a military kid, he got the newest Jordan stacked up. He got a Charger with an interest rate that's like 28% because we can get approved for any car damn near just because we're in the military. And it's like, bro, you are following the wrong blueprint. They actually have a bad name for it. They call it the F-boy blueprint, because that's what you're going to turn into. But no, honestly, just, if you don't hear nothing else, get a mentor, somebody that's going to, and listen to that mentor. And be willing to humble yourself a little bit, to the point I'm saying, like, it's okay for a while to have the Bobo shoes and so on. When you get to that point that you can afford that lifestyle, do it. You know, it's just not, everybody can't have that. You can't be chasing the Joneses out here. Right. So at 17 and 18, I think that's for any 17 and 18-year-old. Don't get caught up in the limelight, man. Like, that stuff will come as you work. I'm saying, when were you able to afford your first pair of Balenciagas? And be young. No, I'm saying, I peeped them. I was like, dang, that was nice, man. I want to feel like, I was like,
you weren't able to get them when you was
like
15?
It takes my own.
It took your own time, and you did it when you've like, yo, I earned this.
Yeah.
And I worked for it. You know, like.
But also too, like for example, Cam, like in your generation of like 22, 23-year-olds, how did it look whenever people like Lil Wayne and Kodak Black were like, well, let's talk about Lil Wayne was meeting with Trump. So like, how did, like, you know, as far as like the way you all consume music, the way you all look at rappers like Wayne, Drake, and the guys like that, like, what was the outlook of Wayne in like your circles?
Well, for me, I mean, because I've always been a Lil Wayne fan by default. I feel like if you're not a Lil Wayne fan, you just don't like rap. But I'm not like a die-hard Lil Wayne fan. So when I saw him, I know he's been going through like a lot of stuff. So I was just thinking it was like, okay, he just doing something else. It's just Lil Wayne just doing something else. But then when I see that he got granted or what is it, a pardon out of jail, I was like, okay, that must have been a part of the plan from the beginning. Honestly, he probably knew it was already something he was about to get caught up with, and was like, on the way to get this, be able to just get in, get out, is if President Trump literally lets me out. Like,
I mean, he played it smart.
He played position well.
He played the position well.
Use him, honestly. Yeah, much he did out here. So I mean,
P, do you feel like black artists and black celebrities are, if they go to Trump, or like when he was in office, when they went to Trump and asked him for these favors, do you feel like they were selling out as a black person to the black community by going and asking? That's true. So it's a double-edged sword. But how you feel about that?
Yeah, they are selling out, but they have their own agendas. Everything is individualistic, situational, you know what I'm saying? Wayne, he had his situation. Maybe Kodak did his under the rug.
That was a Hail Mary, boy.
Lil Pump, his career was dying. You know what I'm saying? You do things like that when you're people like him or 6ix9ine.
Pump got pardoned too?
yeah.
Well,
He was rocking that Make America Great Again.
Yeah,
ass.
and it was
and it started getting notoriety again.
Pump?
it was putting him in the limelight.
They put him
you know what I'm
in,
saying?
rejuvenated his career.
So what that does is it boosts your streams back up, everything. Lil Wayne didn't need it, but now I'm like, okay, so you did that for a reason. And I asked myself, will you do that? And I'm like, yo, you don't know.
If you're facing that much time in jail.
If you're Lil Wayne,
I mean, if Trump giving out free passes,
The president has
Now, I will say though, I didn't like how y'all boys. I didn't like how Kanye. That kind of messed
I
up.
can't fool with that
That
one.
messed up my whole
I was
vision.
done with Ye after that.
I was a big. I don't even check for his albums no more. I would do music
I'm
with
done.
Kanye for the sake.
Right.
I'm not gonna play like that.
I feel you.
It's still
You
Kanye,
said it's business.
but I don't check for him. You know, it's one of my favorite artists of. You know,
Oh, fine.
he brought hip hop back.
Yeah.
Like, he
I'm a fan
did
of
that.
old Kanye. Let me get that
Old
shit.
Kanye,
I want the whole
individually,
game.
but the new Kanye still is musically inclined. He still has that capability.
They say he
but-
back to doing rap, like rap.
I mean, I don't know right now. You know what I'm saying? But he put the hat on, but it was just like
That was so
everything.
cool.
Yeah.
It just it
Everything
didn't.
about it just didn't feel right.
But he said it's an interview he got with Nick Cannon. It's like a 2-hour interview. It's like the first interview he did in like years. He literally talking about everything from his beginning of his career all the way to the end. He literally said that Trump told him straight up that we're not having this this interview or talk or whatever unless you put his hat on. He literally said that in an interview. He said you have to put his hat on because he knows the influence that Kanye has. If Kanye puts on a Make America Great Again, that's something.
I can't sell my soul.
Yeah.
Because you know how many little kids, looked at that
Yeah.
and thought that was okay. You know what I mean? You gotta think about how you affect lives on like micro level.
It didn't work either. He lost a lot of true fans.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it
Still
worked for
selling
some of
Yeezys,
the ones that don't have balance to themselves, but he lost a lot of true fans, and
People that grew up with
I don't think he can get it back to the, you know. And it messes with him too. He takes it to heart. Like, oh, this person doesn't like me. People telling them they hate him and all that. It happens. We see it.
But I feel like even with Kanye, it's like even before the Make America Great Again, whatever, head situation, I feel like he was already kind of going up and down. He was just inconsistent with his decision makings. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you didn't really know what.
So I try to grant him some grace since he has a lot of a long mental health history, like,
Yeah.
I try to grant Ye some grace, you know what I mean?
I did
As far as like, as how I can't, I try not to judge him.
He kept doing it, and I'm like, yo, this is still Ye. You know what I'm saying? He crazy.
Yeah, like the first time you like, he wildin', you know, like.
It's like all geniuses are crazy. Walt Disney, Einstein. I'm like, I'm with you.
But what about
MAGA hat?
when you think about slavery was a choice? So, but that comes. He did the MAGA
I didn't
thing after
agree
he
with
said
that.
slavery was a choice.
Yeah, he did say
I
that.
think at that point it goes back to like the Josh Gordon thing. Who was in your circle? And making sure you come out of rehab. We know.
I don't
I
think
hate
Jay
to.
got a
I
circle.
hate to. He's got a circle.
No, he has one. Jay-Z is in that circle.
I don't think.
I don't know. I think he's one of those
Hov
people.
took a step back.
His ego is too big. Maybe. I don't know him. You know what I'm saying? We don't
Well, I know
know
you
him.
say his circle is the Kardashians.
Yeah, that circle
Oh, that's-
tends to suck the life out of black men. We as much there is a history.
You can go back and look
know what
at
that
And-
is. Like, what? Do they got a secret workshop at the crib?
I would wonder what it is too, because I don't know what kind of sauce they got dripping over there. But apparently,
maybe want to go be in that realm.
But I think, man, I think people look at it like, yo, this is gonna boost, this is gonna make my business go crazy. He married a Kardashian and became a billionaire.
you've reached a level of
Three
affluence.
times over.
3 times over a billionaire, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, they go into it thinking that they can remain themselves, but you can get lost in the sauce real easily, man.
Unless you like somebody like Travis Scott, who's just
He got out.
And he don't do interviews.
But look what it did to him. His career catapulted too.
he doesn't even. You would think he had multiple Grammys, but he has so much success.
He's had a lot of success, man.
But I want to ask this question, and I don't want to push the.
No, go do what you
Why is it that like when we have like a black man in power, a black person in power, us as black people as a community, we get upset when they don't do what we expect from them.
Talking about OB.
That's
That's-
because I mean, but think about like even with Hov, like you got people that. It's like hard to think. It's like, so are you mad because you wasn't the person that was able to have that conversation with the NFL? Are you mad that Colin Kaepernick defended himself, but you basically look like you're somebody that's trying to be a part of them, and it's like he's already said it out loud that I'm the overseer of this, but this is like my ultimate goal. So it's not like it was a hidden agenda. He said it straight
And
up.
you also can't judge a man off a page. You gotta judge him off his book.
That's what I'm saying.
So you have to look at everything that Hov has done in the past.
He's helped some of the top hottest rappers get out of situations.
I think you don't want to compromise relationships either. You don't want to compromise your situation. So you can't get to a certain level, and I'm not saying this is where like it's almost sounds like you're selling out, but you don't want to compromise your book for one bad page to say, well, I'm gonna do it this way.
You want to keep your integrity.
You got to maintain your integrity. You got to maintain the glide path you're on. Otherwise, it's like, why did I work so hard to get to this point, to have a seat at the table?
Because you can't
just to
lose it
listen,
all.
just to listen to the peanut gallery, like down here, that's over here, like, oh, well, you selling out, you doing this and the third. No, I'm opening a doorway that wasn't open, that wasn't open or was only maybe cracked, and I'm trying to open the door all the way so any one of you can come through.
And think about this too. After he did that, after Jay sat down with Goodell, which nobody else could do for, like what you were saying, abstract, he had
For it to
Rock
be,
Nation
like, on
Sports.
TV and,
You
like,
know what I'm saying? Nobody could do that. Nobody would kneel with Cap, only a few people. But after that, what happened to the NFL?
Oh, everybody need mama.
Everybody's kneeling.
Even
You got
Jerry Jones
the number
down
one
there.
man in NFL, Patrick Mahomes. He's kneeling.
Oh, yeah.
You got people speaking on it. You know what I'm saying? Coaches, now everybody, the backlash that Cap got, the whole league is apologizing for. Oh, now we see that it was something. But you didn't get that before, and it took, I'm gonna say, a black rich man in power who has influence over the black community to step at that table.
Right, and it's not even always because like I don't want the viewers to always think it's about sports. Like it's about all areas of business. Like even early on, whenever Trump first got into office, Steve Harvey met with him, right? And his response was, the president of the United States called you, you go. You know what I'm saying? I didn't agree with that statement. Like I feel like it's a special circumstance to where you probably should have had some reservations. Like this ain't a good look. You know what I'm saying? Because you have people like me, like we look up to the Steve Harveys, like we look at him like kings of comedy, him and DL. You see DL Hughley doing a lot of activism on social media or whatever. And so, like we look at guys like that, like now DL is doing what Steve should have been doing. Versus using your platform and Steve Harvey had a show at the time, and so you could have said, all right, I'm not gonna go meet with Trump because it's gonna look bad, but I'm gonna use my platform to make a push forward and make some positive change.
I think it's messaging though too. So
Hey, go ahead and close it out.
it's a very complex thing when you talk about messaging. Sometimes you said like he could have probably took the DL route and been very direct and blunt. Trump might not respond to that. He might not respond to that. You got to understand your audience. You got to talk. As my wife says it to me all the time. You got to talk to people how they understand. So that's probably why she be fussing at me the way she does sometimes. And I be like, but I get it though. Like sometimes you got to talk to people in the language that they speak. Everybody in the black community don't speak Goodell's language. And when you start talking about that level of elitist in America, Jay-Z is one of the few celebrities from the black community besides like your Oprahs and some of the other black investors and
he's a
billionaires.
respected businessman.
He's respected, but he's still in touch with what goes on down at the lowest levels of the black community. Some people wouldn't listen to Oprah the same way they listen to Hov.
Because she's not in tune.
Yeah, they're not in tune. You got to have the heartbeat and the pulse of the community. Right. So for somebody like Hov to move into that space, it's okay. Steve, I kind of agree with you. I don't know if Steve, but can go up there and talk to Trump, but
one thing
who
about
really
Trump,
can?
But Trump only talked to wealthy people because he understands
Yeah,
money.
because they speak the same language. At the
At
end of the day, you got bread, I got bread.
All right, cool. Let's see how we can make some
Let's
more.
see what we can do. Let's go on a cigar bar back here and let's have a talk and let's see what's up. At the end of the day, was there really going to be any change? No, because at the end of the day, Trump is Trump. He is who he is at this point. He's a 78-year-old white male that is in his ways, and he's not going to change. That grew up in that. So I don't know how much effect was expected of Steve from when having that conversation, but at the end of the day, he knew he was in that same arena in terms of wealth.
And so I think overall, man, black Republicans are interesting individuals. The modern day Republicans, we know that the Republican Party back in the day, 100 or so years ago, was for African Americans, and how the paradigm has now changed, where the Democrats were anti-black. Now that has now changed. So now, black people are now pivoting more towards the Democratic Party. And now we have a new president, President Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris, who's a black woman. And I feel like, as a black community, we're now able to kind of start making some strides in the right direction. Because it's kind of like we was climbing up an uphill battle, when we had a leader, over the last 4 years that was not in support of, directly in support of our community. It was kind of like anti our community, preach hatred. We had the Capitol riot and attempted coup, over the last couple of weeks, and so now I feel like things have now turned ahead, and I think I challenged black celebrities that did meet with Trump and was taking more so favoring the Republican route or favoring or whatever the angle was. It's time to do some healing in your community. It's time to kind of remind people who you are, who you've been over the last however old you are, 30, 40, 50 years old, and to come back and pour some of that in. If you did have some benefits with meeting with Trump, come put it back into your community. Like sow some seeds, and put on for your community like we thought you would, and just be consistent, be a man or a woman of integrity, and provide African Americans with a lot of flexibility to grow, succeed, and make a push as we move forward.
Amen.
All right, so I appreciate it.
Okay, so my experience with Black Fly on the Wall has been a different type of experience since I'm the brother. So I saw it all from the beginning, just being in our group chats and just as siblings, just giving off ideas and just going through the process and seeing how this impacted people and educating people on certain topics, even myself.
It'll be my first time kind of being in the physical presence of the Black Fly on the Wall experience. But from what I've watched and noticed since day one, just the first episodes, if I'm not mistaken, it's just been really enlightening, man. I love to see black men of power, men of strength, come together and just be in accordance with each other, where there's no tension, it's just conversation, understanding and learning from one another, and all egos are put to the side, and we're just talking about what we all talk about on a day-to-day basis, just more in a more structured environment, which I think is really dope.
Remember, Black Fly on the Wall, the content that we provided is basically good content for the black community. I definitely believe that sharing the knowledge towards the black community and as black men is very important. not also just sharing the knowledge, but also applying it as well.
Being a part of this Black Fly on the Wall experience is something that I'm honored and privileged to be a part of, just to not only support my fraternity brother in this endeavor, to put great information out to the Black community, but also to be able to network with other Black men and have those discussions where we're in an environment where we can support each other, build each other up, and holding one another accountable on keeping our communities on the right path to success and greatness. So,
Black Fly on the Wall family, it has been an ultimate ride to produce, to finally eclipse 30 episodes. As we film episodes 31 through 34, we are super excited to provide some versatile content. You know, the last 30 episodes have been amazing, providing some versatility, some balance as we discuss relationships, partnerships, wealth, mental health, anything that Black men encounter on their daily lives or have encountered in their lives. Black Fly on the Wall is here to discuss that. We want to make sure we continue to provide Black men with a safe space to communicate and an open opportunity to let their emotions flow. We are here to, create a change, provide some vulnerability and allow Black men to really grow and blossom internally as we put out this content for you all. So as your CEO and producer, thank you all again for providing us with the opportunity to grace your airways and, just put out some things that will help the Black community and more specifically to help Black men grow internally and to help us elevate and function on a higher frequency and vibration. So much love, peace, blessings. Thank you.
If you follow Black Fly on the Wall, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let people know what's going on.
Spread love. Put me in the times, I'm in prime mode. Head of my time, anytime, every time zone. The God flow, I'm in God mode. Blessings hitting me with combos. I ball, cello, mellow, Lonzo. Time is money, no convo. Manifesting my dream prime.